Welcome back to Bitwig Studio, my friends. So I figured today we talk a little bit about a small hack that I like to use whenever I don't really know what to do with my sounds that I build. You know, sometimes as musicians we make sounds in a DAW and we don't really know if they're good or not. We may have put a lot of time into them and then in the end it turns out to be something that we're not really happy with. And I like to have some hacks in my toolbox that we can use just to kind of see if we can save them in some way and turn them into something useful. So for this hack, I called this the all wet delay trick, and the name Nomen ist Omen really. So this might be more for the newer learners here. And I'll show you what I got. I built this tiny, stupid little rhythm thing here. Yes, totally world-changing rhythm beat grid thing. And I built this pattern, which you can't hear because there is nothing on it yet. So, you know me, let's drag a pulley on here for the ease of demonstration. I know. It's really basic and boring and stupid, but that's kind of the point of this video. I can try to beef it up here a bit. Like so maybe. Really boring stuff. But that's kind of the point here. So this could be a sound that is way better, but it could just be a boring sound for the purpose of this demonstration. I turn the release down quite a bit, sustain all the way down, and the decay down, so we make something plucky for this example. For the first example, I'll try a different one after this. Sounds like a plucky guitar almost. So let's pretend you built this thing and then you're like, okay, this is still kind of boring. What do I do with this? Well, what a lot of people would recommend you do is to put a delay on it. You know, put some delay on it. Maybe you can save it that way. And I recommend the same thing here. But the difference is, let me see, should actually set this template differently here, because sometimes the vibrato is not what I want on my delay, but that should not concern us right now. You can choose any timings here that you want. So normally if you put a delay behind it and it's partly wet and partly dry, it will sound something like this. Which can already be great, right? But then what you may want to try once in a while is to simply turn this all the way to wet and see what happens. And the cool thing about this is, as your brain is trying to figure this out, is that we have really lost the dry signal. We can only hear the wet signal, and so it becomes this almost like ethereal, trippy, psychedelic kind of like a mist of sound, because the brain can no longer distinguish what the original dry signal was. And of course you can mess with the timings here however you like, and just feel free to increase the feedback sometimes. You could even introduce some cross feedback and see how that changes it. And there you go. So we have turned this super boring standard thing that doesn't really sound like anything into this. Yeah. It's the feedback of the first run through. And here we go again. And there you go. So this is a quick, simple way you can turn something dry and boring into something that maybe you can use. So how we would then proceed with this is to simply kind of drag this out. Have the beat going if you want, but for this example I can turn the metronome on. And then what you simply want to do is to kind of see if you have enough volume going here. But it's just about the purpose of this demonstration to show you this technique. You can do all this stuff later on your own. And we simply bounce this post fader. Naturally, we should have probably extended this a bit so we get all the rest of the delay tail here. But that's not what this is about either. So now we do have only the wet signal here because we recorded this with wet all the way to wet, with mix all the way to wet. And now you may notice the timing is slightly off, of course, because we don't hear the dry signal. We only hear the wet signal after it. So what you can then simply do is to kind of cut off the front a bit and move this around and see how that plays with your grid and with your beat. Like so, or a slightly more odd timing. Until you find something that you really dig. And put the beat back on. Cool. And so now you have turned this boring thing into this slightly more exciting thing. Now I could end it here, but I do want to try, at the risk that this may not work out at all. I could try something more with a saw that I have had really good experiences with. And the first when I stumbled over this trick and how it kind of saved the sound was because I was building some kind of saw pattern. Bear with me here. Play with the envelopes here a bit. Turn the attack down. Decay doesn't really matter. We want some sustain. We could even introduce some release. I do want more drive in here, so I put a sine shaper on it. Even try even 1 octave lower. Like so. So something more sawy, maybe a little gnarly. Even do something like this. Make sure not to put too many notes, so I may have just broken that own rule. Even go lower. And then do the same thing with sound like this. So we would maybe, let's see where we at. Try this out. Go with 6/16 and 4/16, 16ths, you know. Cross feedback a bit. Make sure the lows are cut. High cut can go up a bit. Should really save that template. And we go from dry to wet and see how that sounds. So you can hear, excuse me, you can hear how this fairly boring standard saw thingy turns into this crazy, massive kind of avalanche, or this, this, well, you call it what you think it sounds like. You can, of course, mess with your high cuts here a bit and with your delays, the feedback. Maybe I introduced a little much here. Maybe we have a little too much treble going, so you could pull back on the frequency a bit. It's all minute details, but the point is that we've turned this slightly boring, simple saw that may work on its own into this kind of pattern. So we could use this as some kind of intro, maybe. And there you hear it again, of course. We want to kind of make sure that it's in grid. It's in the beat grid, so that we can really work with it and that it's kind of going, setting off and starting on the one and not some random place. So disregarding selecting the right gain, staging, and all this stuff, just to show you real quick, we would bounce this. As you can see, it will take a little while longer. Also because I'm recording, of course. And then we would simply see how this fits into the grid that is either coming by the metronome or by the beat. So naturally, we could try to put this first initial transient of this, I still don't know what to call this, of this kind of weaving sound pattern, atmosphere, ambience saw thing onto the one. And then you can already see how this kind of promotes your workflow in a way, because you don't get stuck on this stupid, weird, boring sound here and kind of beat yourself for not having any ideas, but we just turned this fairly boring thing into this thing. And thus we have maybe saved some of our work in order to use it for our track and not just hit delete and cry about it and have to start all over just to build another boring saw sound that we don't know what to do with. And so on this channel, I want to share the few hacks that I do have whenever I feel stuck and whenever I want to turn the sound that I did build into something that is actually fun to listen to and that adds to the song. So whenever you're in doubt, try this all wet delay trick. You could use either delay, you could use a more complicated one like the delay 4, or you could of course use your own delay plugins that you have. Be careful that it's not crescendoing too much. So the delay 4, as you can see, if we would increase the feedback all the way to maximum, of course, it would kind of overlap and it would eventually get really loud and feedback into itself so much that you really exceed your maximum level, and it's just peaking and distorting and everything. So make sure that the feedback is not too much, but that it's enough to kind of paint this pattern. How great that I already deleted the thing, but you get the idea. And so we'll listen one more time here. Not really magic, right? But I wish I would have known about this trick way earlier, just to save some of the sounds that I sat down so long and built and then eventually deleted because I just couldn't get them to work with the track. So I hope this helped you out. If you still need Bitwig, you can find the link in the description and a coupon code. And thanks for watching as always. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. And if you have anything you want me to talk about in specific regard to Bitwig, I will do my best to get back to that and elaborate as best as I can with the little bit of knowledge that I do have. And I always love to learn from you. Thank you for all your comments and for all the helpful advice that you have given back to me, because none of us are really here the unparalleled pros. We are all still learning, And even the people who are miles ahead of us, like the artists that we like to listen to, maybe even they are still learning every day. So when it's not working out for you, don't beat yourself up. We all have to go through it. And so once again, thank you for watching, and you guys have a great day. Bye bye.